The beast of the battlefield. The sky was black with smoke. The ground shook with each blast. Soldiers screamed and ran, but none of them escaped. They were not fighting an army. They were running from one creature. She was tall, taller than any human. Her skin was red like fire, and sharp horns curved from her head. Her claws could tear through steel. Her name was Rajara, but everyone called her the Crimson Claw. She did not walk. She charged. She did not speak. She roared. The battlefield was already soaked in blood when she arrived. A line of armored troops tried to stop her. They failed. She moved through them like a knife through paper. Metal cracked. Bodies flew. She was not killing to win. She was killing to erase. The Zilari Empire had made her for this. They fed her pain. They gave her no family, no love. Only war. They called her a living weapon. And today, she was sent to destroy the last human outpost in the region. Rajara moved fast through the burning ruins. Her eyes glowed with rage. She crushed walls, flipped armored tanks, and crushed anything that stood in her path. Her breath was heavy, but her steps never slowed. Then, it happened. She turned a corner. Flames lit the area bright. Smoke rose from shattered machines. And there, in the middle of it all, stood a single figure. Not in armor. Not running. Not hiding. He was human. He wore simple clothes, dust-covered and torn. His hair was short, and his skin was marked with ash. But his face was calm. He looked up at her, unafraid. Rajara froze. Her claws hung in the air. Her body trembled. Something in her chest felt tight. Why? She stared at him. Something in his eyes pulled her in. Memories rushed back. Ones she had buried deep. Ones she was not supposed to have. A face. Not the same, but close. A younger face. A boy's face. Years ago. A mission gone wrong. She had saved a human child once. No one knew. She was not ordered to do it, but she had. He had thanked her. He had smiled. This man's eyes, they were like that boy's. The sounds of battle faded. All she could hear now was the soft wind and her own heartbeat. The man raised one hand, slowly. Not to fight. Not to run, just to show peace. She wanted to move, to charge, to finish her mission, but her legs would not obey. "You remember me, don't you?" the man said. His voice was quiet, like the words weren't meant for the world. Just for her. Rajara blinked. She had been trained to feel nothing, to destroy without thought. But now her claws lowered. Her arms dropped to her sides. The rage in her chest cracked. Behind it was something soft, something broken. She stepped back. The man did not move. Sirens screamed behind her. Backup was coming. More soldiers, more fire, more war. But Rajara did not wait. She turned and leapt over the rubble, vanishing into the smoke. The commanders watching her through drone feeds were confused. Some shouted, others cursed. No one understood why their best weapon had stopped, but Rajara knew. For the first time in years, she had seen a human face, and it had stopped her heart. Something was wrong. Or maybe something was waking up. The memory she couldn't kill Rajara. Didn't run. She vanished. Her red body melted into the night, into the shattered ruins, into the shadows between fire and ash. The Zilari drones lost her trail. Their eyes searched from above, but she was trained to disappear, even from her own creators. But she wasn't hiding because she was scared. She was hiding because something inside her had broken. She sat beneath a collapsed sky plate, far from the battle. Her body crouched low like a beast. Smoke drifted around her. Blood still dripped from her claws. Her breathing was heavy, not from exhaustion but confusion. She touched her chest, just above her hearts. It felt tight, Strange. She remembered eyes, human eyes, and a voice. You remember me, don't you? No soldier should say that to her. No soldier should look at her and not be afraid. No soldier should make her freeze like a cornered animal. But he had, and now, memories poured into her like a storm. The past was a place Rajara was not allowed to visit. The Xalari had erased it. They said she was born in the labs, grown to kill, trained to obey. They called her perfect. But she knew they were wrong. Long ago, before the wars, before the scars, she had been sent on a mission to the outer colonies. Back then, she was different. Still deadly, still strong, but less controlled. She had thoughts. She had questions. She had feelings. And it was there, on one lonely planet, that she found the boy. He was hiding under a broken cart. Small. Frightened, but not crying. She had been told to eliminate everything, leave no trace. She had lifted the cart, ready to strike. But he had spoken first. Please don't. That's all he said. Not a scream, not a weapon, just 2 words, and Rajara had lowered her claws. She didn't know why. She still didn't. Maybe something in her saw something in him. He had no one. Just like her. For 3 days. She had hidden him, fed him, guarded him. They never spoke much. He just followed her, quietly, like a shadow. On the 4th day, the Xalari came back. She was forced to leave, forced to forget. But she didn't forget. His face was burned into her mind. The way he looked at her, like she wasn't a monster, like she mattered. She thought he had died when the colony was cleansed. That was what the report said. Everyone was gone. But now, he was alive, and he had found her again. Rajara stood up slowly from the rubble. Her claws scraped stone. Her body was shaking, not from fear, but from something worse, a feeling she didn't have a name for. Her communicator buzzed. Unit Crimson report. Your mission is incomplete. Return to command. She didn't answer. Unit Crimson, respondy, or be marked rogue. Still nothing. Then the voice changed. Final warning. If you disobey, we will retrieve you by force. She crushed the communicator in her hand. They would come. She knew it. She had broken their rules. Stepped out of line. They would send hunters. Killers like her. But she didn't care. She had to find the human. She had to know the truth. Was he the boy? Was he the reason her heart was waking up? And if he was, what did that mean for her? For the first time in her life, Rajara was not following orders. She was following a memory, and memories she now understood were far more dangerous than any weapon. Hunted by her own kind, the first hunter arrived before dawn. He was silent, invisible. His armor shimmered against the color of the sky. Rajara felt his presence before she saw him. A faint shift in the air, the scent of charged plasma. The kind only the elite wore. She didn't run. She waited. He dropped from above, blades drawn, voice hollow. You broke protocol, Crimson. I'm here to take you back. Rajara tilted her head, her claws twitching. Back to what? The hunter said nothing. They fought. Metal clashed with bone. The earth split beneath their feet. Sparks lit the sky like falling stars. But Rajara had learned something new. Pain did not matter when the heart was awake. She moved with purpose, not rage. Her strikes were not wild now, but clear. The hunter fell. He did not get back up. She didn't kill him. She left him breathing, and she vanished again. The next 2 came together. Twins. One wielded sound. The other wielded silence. They found her near the cliffs of Taldur, where the rocks echoed the past like whispers in a cave. She stood alone, looking over the broken valley, the place where she first remembered holding the boy's hand. They attacked without words, but Rajara was ready. She didn't just fight with power now. She fought with memories, with pain, with truth, with something the Zalari had tried to erase but failed. She threw the twins into the sea. They wouldn't die. But they wouldn't follow again soon. Word spread fast. The weapon had gone rogue. The Empire's most feared creation had betrayed its masters. Some called her mad. Others called her free. But Rajara didn't care what names they gave her. She was searching. She followed rumors, whispers, data trails stolen from enemy comms. Each clue pointed toward a hidden zone, deep in neutral territory where no soldiers walked, where no side ruled. It was said to be a place for the forgotten, for those who did not wish to fight anymore. Rajara had never known such a place could exist. But she believed now, because the human had looked at her with the eyes of someone who remembered her. And she needed to see that look again. One night, Rajara stopped in a ruined field. It had once been a city. Now it was rubble. Grass grew over bones. Wind danced through broken walls. She sat beside a collapsed statue, her body still, her mind racing. A child approached, a small alien girl no more than 7, dirty and thin. She looked at Rajara without fear. Rajara blinked. "You're not afraid of me?" The girl shrugged. "You look sad." Rajara lowered her eyes. "I was made to destroy." The girl sat beside her. "Maybe you were. But you don't look like you want to." Rajara didn't answer. The girl pointed to the sky. "Do you see the lights?" Rajara looked up. The stars shimmered, dancing behind clouds of dust. "My mama says stars are the eyes of the old ones. They watch over those who don't belong." Rajara stared longer than she meant to, and something deep inside her broke open. Not pain. Not anger. Just longing. The next morning, she reached the neutral zone. She had crossed 3 empires, bled on 6 moons, fought 10 hunters. But none of that mattered, because in the center of the quiet village, under the shadow of an old water tower, stood the one face she couldn't forget. He was older now, stronger. His shoulders carried weight, but his eyes, they were the same. Soft, kind, knowing. He saw her. He didn't run. He stepped forward, and he smiled. "I wondered when you'd find me." Rajara didn't speak, because suddenly, for the first time in her life, she didn't know what to say. The broken soldier and the beast, he stood there just as calm as before, under the pale blue sky that flickered with the lights of a dying satellite. Rajara didn't move. For a long time she only watched him. This human who had no armor, no gun, no fear. Dust clung to his boots. Scars marked his arms. But his face, his voice, still held the same softness she had only known once in her life. He stepped closer, slow and careful, not like she was a threat, but like he didn't want to break something fragile between them. "You remember me, don't you?" he said gently. Her throat tightened. She hadn't spoken in days. "The colony," she finally rasped. "The boy, hiding under the cart." He smiled. "Elias. My name's Elias now, or still. Depends who you ask." His words weren't sharp. They weren't cold. They felt like warmth in a world that had long forgotten warmth. Rajara looked away. Her claws flexed at her sides. "They told me you died." Elias chuckled, low and tired. Everyone dies on paper, not everyone stays dead. She didn't know how to answer. Instead, she looked around. The village was simple. Old structures patched together with scrap, farms dug into ruined roads, children chasing broken drones like toys. There were no guards, no war machines, just life. "This is where you hide?" she asked. Elias sat down on a stone bench, his legs aching with a limp she hadn't noticed before. "This is where I help. I fix what I can. Patch people up. Give them something to eat. I don't want to fight anymore." Rajara stayed, standing. Her body was still tense, like she didn't know how to be anything but ready for war. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" she asked after a while. He looked at her with the same calm eyes. Because you didn't kill me when you could have. You chose to protect me. I've never forgotten that. Rajara's mouth opened, then closed. No one had ever said those words to her before, not once. I don't know what I am anymore, she said quietly. Elias leaned forward. You're not what they made you. Not if you came looking for me. She stared at him, her voice soft like a breath. Then what am I? He smiled. You're something new. That night Rajara stayed in the village not because she was told to, not because she had a mission, but because for the first time, no one screamed when they saw her. No one raised a weapon. No one called her a beast. They watched. Yes. Some with fear, some with awe, but they didn't run. An old woman gave her bread. A child touched her claw and laughed. A wounded soldier from the other side simply nodded once, and that was enough. She sat outside Elias's small shelter, knees drawn up, staring at the stars. They blinked above her like distant memories, unreachable but alive. Elias joined her, sitting close. He offered her a tin cup of tea. It shook in his hand as he lifted it. She took it. Their silence was deep but not empty. They'll come for me, Rajara said after a while. I know, Elias replied. They'll burn this place to the ground. He nodded. Maybe. But I'd rather live one honest day here with you than 100 under their boots. Rajara turned her head slowly. You'd die for this? He looked at her, his voice steady. I already did, the day they took everything. This is what's left. Rajara looked down at her hands. Claws that had ended so many lives, hands that had never learned to hold gently. Then maybe, she whispered, it's time I learn how to live too. And beside her, in the still of the night, Elias didn't answer with words. He simply stayed. And for Rajara, that was enough. They came for blood. They came without warning. No signal. No sound. The night air was still when the first drone slipped through the clouds, its wings folding into silence. Then came the others. Machines with eyes like red stars, scanning the ground for a single signature. Rajaras from the nearby hills, 5 dropships broke the sky open. Their engines howled like dying beasts as they landed just beyond the village's edge. The earth trembled. The people woke in fear. But Rajara didn't flinch. She had been waiting. Elias stood in his doorway, eyes wide as the shadows of the Zilari spread across the rooftops. They came in dark armor, blades gleaming, plasma rifles humming in their arms. Their faces were hidden behind masks shaped like fangs. They were not soldiers. They were reclamation units. The kind sent when something precious had escaped. They weren't here to arrest. They were here to erase. Rajara, Elias whispered, heart pounding. They found you. She stood beside him, watching the ships land like vultures. Her expression didn't change, but her fingers curled into fists. No, she said. They found us. Villagers ran. Mothers grabbed children. Wounded men scrambled to hide. Some tried to flee toward the caves hidden in the back cliffs. The ones Elias had prepared for days like this, even if he never believed they'd come. Rajara turned to him, voice calm but hard. Take them. Lead them underground. Don't stop. What about you? He asked. She looked him in the eye. I'll hold the line. He tried to argue. He tried to say something brave, something noble, but she didn't give him time. In one motion, she pulled him close. Her clawed hand pressed gently, gently, against his chest. You made me remember who I was before they built me. Now I need to become someone worth remembering. Then she turned away and walked into the storm. The first blast hit the ground just outside the village gate, sending fire and smoke into the air. The auxiliary units moved with deadly rhythm, forming a circle, pushing inward. But they didn't expect her to move so fast. Rajara tore through the fire, not as a weapon, not as a killer, but as something new. Her roar cracked through the air like thunder, Louder than the engines, sharper than the blades, they opened fire. Plasma bolts lit the sky, striking ground, walls, trees, but never her. She moved like wind wrapped in steel. Every step was a memory. Every strike was a choice. She wasn't killing because she was told. She was fighting because she had something to protect. In the tunnels beneath, Elias guided the people deeper. The children cried. The old ones prayed. The wounded leaned on each other to move forward. Above them, the world shook. He stopped once, looking up, his heart torn in two. He could still hear her, still feel the shockwaves of her battle. "Stay alive," he whispered to the stone above him. Just long enough. On the surface, Rajara bled. But she didn't fall. More ships came. More auxiliary dropped from the sky, each one deadlier than the last. But they could not match her will. She struck with pain, with memory, with the ghost of a boy who had once held her hand without fear. She had nothing left to prove, but everything left to protect. When the final war suit approached, a machine the size of a tower, armed with twin cannons and a blade longer than any creature should hold him, Rajara didn't run, she climbed it bare hands. Broken claws. She ripped its heart from the inside, screaming as fire swallowed her. And when the machine fell, she stood atop its corpse, burning, bleeding, alive, her vision blurred, her body shook. She fell to one knee. The village was gone. Smoke covered the sky, but the tunnels had not collapsed. They had made it out, and that was enough. Rajara closed her eyes, not in surrender, but in peace. For the first time, she had chosen who she wanted to be. The battle that changed the war for hours. Smoke rose over the hills. The wind dragged it across the broken land like a veil of sorrow. The Zilari war machines lay in twisted heaps, their armored forms scorched and cracked. The air reeked of burning oil and metal blood. In the center of the battlefield, Rajara knelt. Her breathing was shallow. Her body was broken. Cuts ran deep across her chest, one horn was shattered, her left arm barely moved. But her eyes burned with something ancient and human. She had not died. She had refused to. The Xilari had called her their greatest creation, their ultimate weapon, but they had never seen what she could become without their chains. She was not theirs anymore. Far above in orbit, command ships watched in silence. They had deployed their best. They had sent a full suppression force. And still, she stood. "Commander," a voice said over the Zilari bridge's silence. She neutralized all units. Alone. The Zilari High General stared at the screen, unblinking. "No," he said slowly. "Not alone." The human changed her. Those words echoed, not as anger, as fear. Down below, Elias climbed from the caves with a group of villagers. The smoke burned their lungs. The light from burning ships painted their faces orange and gold. And then they saw her, Rajara, bloodied and towering, surrounded by the bodies of her own kind. Elias ran to her. He dropped beside her and gently touched her shoulder. Her eyes opened slowly. "You're alive," he said, his voice trembling. "You too," she whispered, a small smile tugging at her lips. He looked around, unable to believe the sight. "You did this?" She didn't answer. Instead, she asked, "Are they safe?" "Yes. All of them. They made it." Rajara nodded, then collapsed forward unconscious. Elias caught her before she hit the ground. Word spread fast. A single being, a former weapon, had held back an entire elite force. News reached both sides of the war. Humans who once feared the Crimson Claw now whispered her name with awe. Soldiers told stories of a creature who fought for them, not against them. And deep within the halls of the Empire, the silence turned into worry. The Zilari had lost something more valuable than a weapon. They had lost control of a symbol. In the following days, ceasefires were called across the nearby sectors. Emissaries stalled their missions. No one wanted to test what else she might do if pushed again. In medical tents, Rajara slept. Her body healed slowly, surrounded by alien doctors who had never treated one of her kind before. Her skin resisted their tools. Her organs confused their machines. But Elias sat by her side day and night, wiping blood from her brow, whispering to her gently when no one was around. "You came back for me," he'd say. "Now it's my turn." When she finally woke, it was to the sound of music. Soft, humming tones from a child playing near her bed with a handmade instrument. Rajara blinked slowly, eyes adjusting to the soft morning light. Her first instinct was to reach for her weapon. Her claws twitched, but there was no weapon, only the warmth of a blanket, only the softness of a chair, only the smile of a child. "Are you the monster?" the child asked curiously. Rajara stared at her. Then slowly, she shook her head. "No," she said. "Not anymore." Outside, Elias spoke to a gathering of leaders, warriors, and diplomats. They argued, feared, debated. "You're asking us to trust her?" one barked. "After everything she's done?" "No," Elias said simply. "I'm asking you to see her. Not what they made. Not the weapon. The one who chose to save us, at the cost of her own life." They fell silent, because they had all heard the stories, and none of them could deny the truth. One human had softened a monster, but more than that, he had awakened a soul. Rajara stepped out of the tent, weak but walking. The crowd turned to her. Some stepped back, others watched closely. She stood beside Elias, her head held high, her scars glowing faintly in the sun. "I'm not your enemy," she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. It was real. "I fought for someone I remembered, someone who showed me kindness when I was nothing but a tool. I won't go back to being what they made me, but I'll fight. Not to destroy, to protect." The wind carried her words far across the valley, and somewhere, in the deepest corners of the galaxy, the foundations of the war began to shake, not from bombs, but from the heart of a former monster who had remembered what it meant to be alive. The human face that saved her a season past. The war didn't end overnight, but something deep within it changed. Across the outer systems, soldiers spoke of the Crimson Claw not as a monster, but as a turning point. They whispered her name, around fires, shared tales of her last stand, and wondered if all weapons could one day stop obeying. Peace talks opened. Cautious, slow, but real. And at the center of this fragile hope stood a story no one believed at first. A beast, who had frozen at the sight of a human face. Rajara walked now with a cane. Her left leg had not healed straight, and parts of her body still carried metal where bone had shattered. But she wore no armor, no claws, only a loose gray cloak and silence in her steps. She no longer belonged to the Zellari. She no longer served a war. She belonged to herself, and maybe to something more. The village had grown. Refugees had come, broken families, ex-soldiers, deserters, even a few quiet Zellari, stripped of their rank, tired of killing. They all came for the same reason. They had heard of a human healer and a red-skinned warrior who protected without asking for anything in return. Rajara did not speak often, but when she did, people listened, especially the children. They followed, her like shadows, asking questions, daring to touch the edge of her old scars, and sometimes, only sometimes, she let herself laugh. It was strange at first, then easier, and beside her, always, was Elias. He had never left her side. He no longer needed to fight. But he still worked, tending wounds, rebuilding roofs, teaching young ones how to bind cloth and stitch flesh. He limped slightly now. Rajara offered to carry him once. He laughed. "Only if I get to carry your sword in return." She smiled. "I buried it." "Good," he said. "Then maybe we'll plant something there instead." One evening, as the suns dipped behind the ruined peaks, Rajara sat on the same bench outside Elias's shelter, where they had first shared silence. This time, the silence was warm, Not because nothing needed to be said, but because everything already had been. Elias handed her a small, worn datapad. She looked at him. "What is this?" "It's the last file from the Empire," he said. "They unsealed it after the ceasefire. I thought you should see." Rajara tapped the screen. Video played. Security footage. Grainy. It showed a small colony outpost years ago. Her younger self, horns unchipped, armor clean. And the boy, the human child. He had fallen. She had picked him up. Someone off camera had shouted for her to kill him. Instead, she had shielded him with her body. "I knew it," Elias whispered. "It was you." Rajara's throat tightened. "I remembered. But I thought maybe it was a lie." "You saved me back then," he said, reaching out, his fingers brushing hers. "And now you saved so many more." Rajara lowered the datapad. "I never wanted to be a hero," she said. "You're not," he replied. "You're something better." She looked at him. Her voice was soft. "What am I?" Elias smiled gently. "You're free." Later that night under the stars, Rajara stood at the edge of the village looking toward the mountains. Elias joined her holding 2 cups of warm tea. "You planning to leave?" he asked. "I don't know," she said. "There are others out there like me. Weapons, still trapped, still being used. Maybe I should find them." Elias nodded. "Maybe you should. And maybe you don't have to go alone." She turned to him. His eyes, those same eyes that had stopped her in the middle of fire and death, held no fear, only trust. Rajara reached out, her massive claw once stained with blood, now trembling with something gentler. He took it. No, words passed between them. They didn't need any, because long ago a weapon had seen a human face and froze. And now, that same weapon, reborn, scarred, and healing, walked beside that face toward something the war had never taught her to: believe in a future.